Hi, I'm Logan Riley Bruner. I play Fred Benson on Stranger Things 4, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So, really excited on today's episode. I have a guest from Stranger Things Season 4. We're talking to Logan Riley Bruner. He plays Fred Benson on the show. So excited to have you on to the show today, man. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I really appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. So, just to kind of, to start things off, I always like to do this for guests the first time coming on the show. Can you just tell us a little bit about your journey in acting, how you got started off, how that all kind of happened for you?
Yeah, totally. So both my parents were actors when I was born, and they took a step back from it after I came into the picture. They didn't want me to be one of the stage kids that had their stage parents dragging them around auditions. So I avoided that for my early years. But then a musical theater collective group, at the time it was called Rosie's Broadway Kids, but now it's called Rosie's Theater Kids. It's Rosie O'Donnell's musical theater company. Came to my elementary school, and I just fell in love with it. I started acting from there. I did some child theater, and I auditioned for a performing arts middle and high school. And then just the ball started rolling. I met my manager doing a show, and then she introduced me to my agent, and then I just started working in the theater community and eventually got into TV and film. And now we're here 15 years later, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, and man, you're on one of the biggest TV shows of all time.
I
So,
know, it's a weird feeling.
and you've had, because I correct me if I'm wrong on this too, because I thought I saw in another interview that you did. Your journey with Stranger Things is very interesting because
Yeah,
this isn't you originally auditioned for the first season, right?
I did. I auditioned for Jonathan Byers when the show first got announced and created, and
Yeah, which is pretty wild. So, can you, for those who aren't familiar, can you just kind of talk about that whole process, auditioning for him in the
totally.
first season, and then now then coming back, season 4 and getting this part of Fred?
Yeah, so I think this was back in 2015. I got an audition notice for this new show called Montauk. Really the major name associated with it was Winona Ryder, and I was like, she's amazing, so this sounds like a cool project. I read the sides because they didn't release the script at the time, and I really loved this character, Jonathan Byers. I thought he was a lot of fun. He was really interesting. But even when I auditioned for it, I mean, I've got a super baby face. So I recognized that I was probably too young for the character, but then also too old to kind of play any of the Mike, Will, those characters.
Yeah.
And so this show Stranger Things comes out, and I was like, oh, this is that show Montauk that I auditioned for. This is really good. I really love it. And I became a fan, and I started following it just as a fan of the show and as someone who really loved it. And then season 4 was coming, and I got another audition to the same casting director, Carmen Cuba, who I had auditioned for a couple other projects for in the meantime. And I went out, I bought glasses, I took the time to really dedicate to this Fred Benson audition, who I think he was Fred Wilson at the time. They had changed the name. And I did a self-tape for it, and then 2 months later I got the call that I was going to be on the show.
I mean, it's such an interesting story, and it's so cool because I feel like not many times something like that happens where it's you originally auditioned for a role, you don't get it, and that's a lot of times it's that's usually it. You move
Right.
to other projects and stuff, but then to have the shows going on years later, and for another opportunity to come back around, I'm sure that you must have just been ecstatic when that got presented to you.
Oh, I was thrilled. I mean, by that point, Stranger Things had become probably one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I'm so biased now because I'm on it, but aside from all of that, I loved the show with all of my heart. I thought it was incredibly well done. I thought the performances were great. The writing's so strong. And so when it came across my desk, I really took a page out of Docray's book, who plays Billy, which is I watched his tape and how just completely immersed in the character he went. And he does the slate with his shirt off and with music playing, and there's a whole thing happening. And so I was really I'm gonna give it everything I can and really try and paint a picture of what this world would look like if I was in it. And I did every trick that I've ever learned with audition technique and with camera work, and I just tried to make it as in the space as possible. And I guess they really felt it because lo
Yeah,
and behold, they brought me in.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, hey, it worked. I mean, you put everything out there and it paid off. So I mean, yeah, that's such a when I saw that or like listened to like the interview, I was just like, wow, that is such a cool story. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm so happy that you got to get another crack at this now. And
thank
this
you.
got just a heads up, guys. By now, I'm sure most of you have probably seen the show. If you haven't, then definitely go watch it now. But just a heads up, we will get into some spoilers with the show where it's been out, for a little bit now. So unfortunately, Fred doesn't make it in the season, becomes one of Vecna's victims. So what went into shooting his death scene? Did you get like a mold or a cast done of your body? Was a lot of CGI? Was it a combination of things? Can you just kind of break that down?
Totally. Yeah. I have a bunch of pictures and I've continued to post them just on my Instagram, just of like behind the scenes stuff. But the first part of the process was I got into a tent, and they had like 260 cameras set up in a circle and they just took pictures of my body from every angle. And then back in New York, I did a full mold with the team that actually works for SNL. They were absolutely incredible, and they just made an entire mold of my head, my teeth, and my arms, which is what you see in Vecna's little castle when you see the body.
Yep.
And then to shoot the actual death, we did one day in a studio, which was the grave, and that was me and Jamie, who plays Vecna, and the other character that he plays. And we just shot that for one day, which was super exciting and super fun and super creepy because I mean, he's an incredible actor and he's so good to work across from. And then the rest of it was just out on a road. It was they hooked me up on wires and they lit a car on fire and I walked toward it menacingly, and then they lifted me into the air and we had to do a bunch of stunt work with that. But I mean, it was a long process to get what ends up being like a 10-minute sequence. Was like 6 days of shooting, just making sure that like every piece of it was kind of perfectly crafted so that it really told the story of like what happens to Fred in his final moments.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's definitely a lot that went into that, just that
Totally.
whole sequence. So I can imagine, yeah, that definitely took a while to film and put together. Now for you, I guess like up to this point in your career, was this your first time kind of experiencing like being up on wires and then like getting like a mold of you done and things like that?
Yeah, the mold and the wires, it was my first time. I've done like stunt stuff in the past. But for with all the VFX, the wires flying, uh working with fire, I mean, getting a head mold done, all of it was super new for me. But everyone was so great and everyone's so professional and so good at their jobs that it was just a super easy process.
I'll
They
say that
made
must have been exciting for for it being your first time doing different things like that, getting to do
Oh,
it.
totally.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure a little bit surreal, not too many times. Well, say depending on some actors do, but not too many times you get to see, yourself killed off on screen. So I'm sure seeing like the mold of your body was that kind of weird.
Yeah, it was definitely surreal. I mean, when they first do it, it doesn't look anything like you. It's just like plaster in a general shape. But then once they like paint it and put everything on, that's when you really get that look of like, oh wow, like that's me dead.
Yeah,
And just as someone who's been a horror fan for a really long time, like I love all that stuff. I love the effects and the gore and the twisting. So like watching myself get killed on screen was really a fun process.
yeah, that stuff was when I watching this season. I had heard from like the cast interviews and stuff like that, saying like it was going to be darker, and
Oh
but it's
yeah.
like from when you see Chrissy and then your death was not expecting that at all. I was like, wow, like, but it makes sense just with like all the especially the kid characters and stuff getting older, that the show is going to mature and get older with its characters. So it's cool that they really stepped more into that horror element for season 4.
Oh, totally. I mean, they've talked about the fact that it's like the Goonies to Nightmare on Elm Street, right? It's
Yeah,
like you go from like the kids are all safe and everybody's going to be okay to we don't know if they're going to make it out of this one all right.
yeah,
And I think that's really exciting for a show like this to really get that progression and allow it to grow with its characters. So
yeah.
I
You
was I was
definitely got
thrilled.
to raise the stakes like
Yeah.
as you're going along. And you talked about this like a little bit while we were, I asked you about that, but we have to talk about Vecna and working with Jamie. So I've spoken to a number of different actors where a lot of times you guys are reacting to sometimes nothing at all, sometimes
Right.
there's like a tennis ball there or something. So I imagine working with Jamie and having him in his full prosthetics, coming at you must have made this whole interaction a lot more real. Was there ever a moment that you almost forgot that that was Jamie underneath this outfit? And what was it just, like working with him overall?
I mean, he's fantastic. I never got to meet him out of the prosthetic, which was funny. I kind of only know him as this monster now. So I feel like the first time we actually meet, he's gonna like know my face, but I'm gonna be adjusting to like what the human looks like. But he's fantastic. We got to meet and kind of talk briefly when he was all done up before we did the scene. So I had that chance to interact with like the human being.
Yeah.
But he's intense and he gets into it. He gives 100% no matter if the camera's on him or not, which really made my job a lot easier. I always had something to react to. I was never like working with a tennis ball. And so I mean, it was a great process. It made being scared of him super easy because that makeup and that prosthetic is so creepy to look at that. I
Yeah.
mean, it was easy to dive into the world of being scared this thing was going to kill you when you see a giant claw coming at your face.
Yeah, and just that, imagine that shot. I mean, even like being there, even though, as an actor, this is all obviously fake and everything, but like being in that tunnel and having that shot of like him coming down the hallway, and I think you see like a reflection in his eyes or something. That must have still been pretty creepy, like being in that moment at that time.
I mean, yeah, totally. You know, as an actor that you're just on set and you're just acting. But once you get locked in a box, it's like you're there, you're existing in that moment and just reacting to what's happening. And so to see that like large looming monster just slowly walking down a hallway at you, it kicks your fight or flight in. It gets you going.
Yeah, he's and it's crazy because yeah, for Jamie, I mean, he obviously like killed it this season. I would honestly, depending on what happens with like Nightmare on Elm Street, if they're able to get Robert Englund back to do another movie or something, because I know he's kind of said that he doesn't really want to do it. I honestly think that Jamie would do a good job of playing like a Freddy Krueger character. I think just what we got to see from him as Vecna, I think that he could pull that off. That would be cool to see.
I mean, yeah, I think we're seeing the birth, especially recently, of a lot of new horror icons. I think Jamie, Bill Skarsgård. I mean, the work that some of these actors are doing to mold into these monsters and bring them to life, I think is absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited to watch like what we get in the near future with some of these performances, because I think already we're seeing some really incredible stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so as far as, so obviously you didn't, where your character didn't survive. So if Fred Benson, if he had a song that could have saved him from Vecna, what would that song have been? Not necessarily like you, Logan, but if Fred had a song.
I think that's the difficulty with Fred, is that Fred isn't really a music guy. He's
Uh,
one of those people that just like focuses on his work and is very like intellectual. Like, I mean, maybe classical music, but I don't feel like he ever really sat around listening to tunes. So I feel like even if
the get-go.
Nancy had been around to try and save him, that there's not really much hope. There's not much that connects him to reality in that kind of musical way.
So he was kind of doomed right from the get-go.
Yeah, he didn't really stand a chance, unfortunately.
So, and let's say, Fred, in another universe of Stranger Things, Fred did make it, past that episode. What characters from the show would you have liked to have seen him interact with more in the season?
Oh, I mean, I think him and Eddie would have been hysterical together.
Oh, that
Like
would be funny.
the two of them just trying to solve problems together, where Fred is so like heady and focused and Eddie's kind of all over the place. I think that would have been funny. I think him and Robin would be hilarious.
That would be
Uh,
good too.
and then honestly, I think him and Will would have made a really good duo. I think the two of them really have similar energies to each other and can kind of find that balance. And I think that's one of the relationships that I wish had gotten to be explored. Like, sure, there's a ton of fun to be had with the rest of the cast, but I think specifically like Will's storyline with Mike this season, I would have loved to be able to participate in what's happening with Will kind of discovering who he is going forward. And I think Fred would have been a really interesting character to kind of dive through that with.
That, yeah, as an actor, I imagine, yeah, that would have been really fun to kind of to dig into that. I know for me, like personally, there was a couple moments, specifically the one scene for with Will and Jonathan where they're having that conversation,
Oh yeah.
brother to brother. And I have a younger brother myself, so just watching that scene play out, that really got to me, and I definitely like teared up like a little bit. So there was some like throughout this whole season. I mean, throughout the show is like in general, but like throughout the season, there was definitely quite a few moments where they definitely tugged at like your heartstrings quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, as a queer person, I think the show does so well at really showcasing our stories and telling the truth about the situations. I mean, it takes place in the 80s, so it's really hard to have those kind of open conversations. I
Yeah.
think they did a great job of having Will come out without needing him to come out. Like
Mhm.
there didn't need to be a huge scene. And
Yeah.
I think the way that they've handled Robin last season and this season has been so great. So I just really applaud them for all the work they've done to really bring that kind of representation to a big mainstream situation.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And now a bulk of your scenes, Logan, obviously were with Natalia Dyer, where Fred and
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nancy they work so closely together. I love the scene where you guys, I believe it's where you guys, no, it might be where you're actually in the building, but where you're basically giving Nancy shit, about like Jonathan. I thought that that was pretty funny. What was it like working with Natalia, where Nancy, her character has been around since the start of the show? And do you either have like a favorite scene that you did with her, or like a favorite behind the scenes like memory story with her?
I mean, she's fantastic. She knows that character like the back of her hand, and she's super talented. So she just brings an energy to the situation that you kind of just match. You meet that train head on, and you hope that you withstand it. She's fantastic though. Being able to have her as a scene partner, she's really giving and really just there to do the work and make something great. And to have that from a scene partner is always an amazing, rewarding experience. I think in terms of scenes that we got to do together, I really love that first one in the classroom. I think there was a lot of fun that we got to have kind of giving each other shit a little bit. But my favorite like scene that I got to do with her, but more because I just got to like be in collaboration with everyone, was the basketball scene. It's really the only chance that I got to have to work with Maya and Joe Keery and Amy Beth and Caleb and kind of be around the whole main cast. And so to be able to like interact with all of them and collaborate with them just for a couple days was a really rewarding experience. And to be able to have the rest of my scenes be with such a fantastic actress, and then to have my last scenes be with such an amazing actor and Jamie, I feel like I was really lucky that I didn't have a single moment where I was like, oh no, this person's like not a good actor. Like they don't bring in bad people on that show.
Oh yeah.
It's just great people all around.
Yeah, and she, I mean, for Nancy, I mean, the evolution of her character. I mean, you have like all the characters that definitely have had like their arcs, but like the evolution of Nancy's character, where she's like really become such a badass in this show, like especially this season, where they're fighting Vecna and stuff like later on. She definitely has like those Ripley, Sarah Connor type
Yes.
of vibes. And it's just I've always myself I've always been like a big fan of strong female characters. So just
Totally.
getting to see her journey from season one to where she's at now has been, so cool and so rewarding, being so invested in these characters. So yeah, I imagine like working with her, like it was a blast.
Oh, truly. I mean, that character is so powerful. Like, put a gun in somebody's hand, and it's going to be Nancy's.
Yep.
But she's great, and I can't wait to see what they do going forward in season 5. I mean, she's got a lot of trauma that she's got to unpack.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
hopefully she's able to deal with that without isolating herself too much. Because I think we see that her two closest friends that she's made end up getting brutally murdered. It's difficult to recover from that.
Definitely hasn't been easy for Nancy for
No,
sure.
no, it has not.
And you've seen all of season four like up to this point.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I
Uh,
watched it the day it came out. I
okay.
mean,
Yeah, I imagine, but just wanted to make sure. So while you were either while you were watching it or while you were on set, what was the thing that most impressed you the most about the show, whether it was the special effects, the costumes, or just like any other aspect of the show?
I think they're constantly stepping their game up. I mean, it was an incredible season writing wise. The acting from everyone is so great. I don't think there's a single person on the show that really like brings anybody down. I think I'm just constantly impressed by how they keep leveling up and keep continuing to up the ante on the show every season. I think, I don't know, there's nothing really specifically that I can say was impressive, like out of anything else. The one take through the entire Byers house with the shootout, the VFX that they were able to pull off with the Demogorgon, the practical effects with Vecna, the design of Vecna's house, the Creel house, like all of the stuff that they did this season was just so impressive that I feel like it's just going to keep getting better and better, and they're just going to keep creating things that bring to life this incredible world.
This season specifically, like, the show's always been great, but like this season specifically, being a huge fan of the series, it was so rewarding because it felt like every episode, and I know it took a while to work on this, because of the pandemic and different things like that, scheduling, but it was so worth it finally getting a chance to watch all these episodes, because it literally felt like every single episode was almost like its own movie. Just
Right.
like the quality, like it felt, very cinematic and things like that. So yeah, I mean, after, I imagine you guys definitely put in like a lot of hard work, but it certainly paid off getting to see it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see it when you're filming it. I mean, I know there's always that explanation that like, oh, directors like throw a bunch of stuff at editors and then they figure it out. But you could really feel on set that the Duffers knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what shots they wanted and exactly how everything was going to look and feel and what the tone was and exactly how they were going to tell this story. And I think they just brought it to life in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, in a way too, I think that, even though things had to like stop, I think in a way, to some degree, it was almost like a blessing in disguise, just for the fact that I think the Duffers and all the other writers and stuff like that got a longer time to like work on the scripts and like figure out what they really wanted to do with the season with all these characters. So I think that made it a little bit like easier to kind of like have everything all like mapped out and everything. So, but yeah, it was this season's definitely like right up there. It's so hard to choose because I love all the seasons, but I'd say this is like definitely like right up there.
Oh, yeah, it's a super strong season. I love it.
Now, you finished filming season 4, and like I imagine you probably finished like a while back. Were you nervous to see how fans were going to react to your character, and just what has that reaction been like for you now that the show's been out for a little while?
Oh, for sure. I mean, with a show like that, you always know that the fan response is going to be intense, but you don't know like which direction it's going to go. I think I got blessed by the fact that they split the show into volume 1 and volume 2, because I feel like if it had just all come out as one season, we would have seen like myself, Patrick, and Chrissy kind of get pushed aside for the heartbreaking death that happens at the end of volume 2.
Yeah.
And so I think that I got blessed in that regard. I think in the lead up, I was super worried that people were going to really hate the way that Fred talks about Jonathan, because that's such a like,
He's a main character, yeah.
I mean, and it's a pairing that the fans have loved since the beginning, is Jonathan and Nancy, and people have really fought for that. I was one of the people that like absolutely loved the two of them together and like cheered during season 2 when they finally got together. So I was definitely worried about it, but the fans have just been incredible. I mean, I think a lot of them recognize that Fred is trying his best to be a good friend, despite the fact that he's kind of sassy.
Yeah.
And he maybe has a little crush on Nancy. We're never quite sure whether or not he's like just a really good friend or if he might secretly have feelings, but I think that the fan response, the art, the fact that people are cosplaying as the character, I mean, I've never had anything even close to this kind of response to a character that I've played. It's
That's awesome.
blown my social media out of the water. It's insane to try and keep up with people as they like tell me how much they liked the show. So I mean, I'm humbled and really thrilled by the fact that people like Fred and that they found joy in the character and have created kind of their own headcanons and their own like little things about him. So it's been a really rewarding, joyful process.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it's always nice, when you get a positive reaction to a character, but like getting it on something like this level where
Oh, yeah.
season 4 was just like so huge. I mean, it broke like all kinds of different records and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised that your social media and stuff like that blew up, because yeah, just all the people, watching the show, and they just do such a good job with writing all these characters, all the characters on the show too. I think they just do such a great job. Like, even if some characters don't necessarily get as much screen time or things to say or do, like they still find a way to make everyone on the show have a very impactful like moment while they are on there.
Yeah, and I think that's the mark of a good show, I think, is when you're looking at characters and saying they didn't get enough screen time, I wanted more of them before they left, is like, there's a lot of really great characters on the show. I think the fact that people are saying like, we want more Chrissy, we want more Fred, we want more of this person, and where was this person? I think it just shows how massive the show is and how there's so much going on that it constantly feels like you just want more from everybody. So it was a great feeling to be on a show like that.
Now, so to kind of like wrap things up, Logan, I have a question for you, where you're a fan of the show. So being a fan of the show yourself, what are some wish list items that you would like to see happen in season 5 to wrap up the series for you personally, just being a fan of the show?
I'm going to put the caveat out there before I say any of these that I know nothing that's going to happen. I
Yeah,
haven't been told anything. All of this is just in my head.
your
I don't want
speculation.
pure speculation.
Yeah,
I would love to see the people that we have lost over the seasons get a chance to return. I
yeah,
would love to see them all kind of haunt Vecna's opponents. So like getting to see kind of Barb and Fred with Nancy and getting to see Bob with Joyce and kind of getting to see the culmination of all the pain that has happened to these characters in this last season, I think would be great. I would love to see some more exploration of both Robin and Will. I think giving them both the chance to kind of have an actual relationship on the show and to really portray that would be really incredible. I think they've done a great job with Robin setting it up in Vicky, and so I can't wait to see what happens with those two characters going forward.
yeah.
And then I think I'm just excited and speculating what that final battle is going to be like. I mean,
Oh
we're
yeah.
gonna have the final fight between Eleven and Vecna and who comes out on top. I think that's going to be really exciting. And no matter how it goes or what direction it ends up spinning or who we lose in the process, I think it's going to be an exciting time.
Sure, we're definitely gonna. I feel like we'll definitely be in for some more heartbreak in season 5 for sure. And what you were
Oh yeah.
saying with your thoughts about having some of those characters back, man. I mean that alone right there, like getting to see some of those characters come back and like interact with some of our characters, just because where it's like to kind of wrap up the series and everything. That would definitely tear or tear at I get the tears working for for people for sure.
Yeah, I mean, save for, I think, like Alexi in season 3, pretty much every character has been killed by this one major villain. Like, sure, the Demogorgon did it or the Mind Flayer did it, but they're all like a piece of the same mind. And
Yeah.
so to see all of those memories and all of that emotion kind of get used in this one final blast, I think would be a really great way, not only to just bring everybody back and give the audience that one last moment with those characters,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of in Vecna's nature to use everyone's worst trauma against them and to be able to turn those people that they already feel responsible for losing back on them, I think would be just brutal in the best way possible. So
That's very true. You know what, Logan? Like maybe you should start doing some like writing for like the Stranger Thing. Well, I know it's only got the one season like left, but hey, like maybe they can get you in the writers' room for the last season.
they're doing spin-offs. I would love to be a part of them.
There you go. And just to wrap things up, for you, Logan, is there, as far as like what you can speak on or talk about, where can first of all, I guess like where can like fans catch you next? Is there any like upcoming projects or anything that you can speak about at this moment?
I love that you have to say that you can speak about, because that's so the industry now is everything's quiet. I worked on a TV show recently that I'm not allowed to talk about because it's top secret, but hopefully they'll announce that soon. I am in talks with a director about a film that I actually wrote, kind of getting that made. So we're seeing what happens with that. I run a production company with my best friends called Black Wolves Productions, and we're producing content over there and making some things happen in that direction. And you can find me on the TikTok and the Instagram and all those places as at Logan Riley Bruner. I'm kind of everywhere with a bunch of balls in the air. So I mean, hopefully within the next month there'll be something exciting coming out. I've got a lot of things that are kind of rolling, and I'm just waiting until someone tells me that I'm allowed to talk about them to kind of yell about them. It's the same feeling I had with Stranger Things, right? It's like
Exactly.
you sit on it for so long that it's just like, come on, I want to be able to share this. So hopefully soon more stuff will be coming. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know the moment that it's out. The moment I'm allowed to talk about it, it ends up on my Instagram.
Of course. Well, that's awesome. And hey, I mean, yeah, it sounds like, you're definitely very busy, which is great. And
Yeah.
yeah, make sure you guys, I will make sure to link, your information down below in the description, once this video is up. So definitely go give him a follow. That way you can keep an eye on any of his upcoming projects. And is there anything else that you'd like to say to the fans just to wrap things up?
I mean, really just thank you. It's been such a humbling process to be a part of a show like this where the fans are so loving and so talented and accepting and have really like poured their hearts out into this character. The fact that people are really finding comfort in him, both in the queer community and just in the Stranger Things community in general. I'm truly humbled by the fact that people have really loved this character so much and have connected to him, and I appreciate every message and every tag that I've gotten, and just yeah, thank you so much for the love.
Congratulations again, Logan, just on, on getting the part, getting a chance to come back to the show. That, that was awesome. But just, yeah, congratulations on the success of the show and the character. And I just want to say, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Obviously, you're very busy, so I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on the show and talk all things Stranger Things with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Pat, thank you. It was a ton of fun. I'm loving it. Hi, I'm Logan Riley Bruner. I play Fred Benson on Stranger Things 4, and you are watching Pop Culture with Pat.